First story. My freeloading adult son enjoyed my vacation instead of babysitting his siblings, so I punished him and gave him an ultimatum. Pay me $4,200 or move out. And he abandoned us. So I told my second son to step up to his brother's place or lose his college fund. And he also abandoned his family. Now my family is ruined, and I hate these two boys so much. I 46F, currently 5.5 months pregnant, am a mum to 5.5 kids. My husband David 47M, and I have been married for over 20 years. We have Brandon 19M, Tyler 17M, Chloe and Leela 10F twins, and baby Ava 1F. We're expecting our 6th in the spring. Brandon graduated high school last year. He took a gap year, supposedly to figure things out. But honestly, it's felt like he's just been coasting. He works part-time at a store that my friend manages. I basically got him the job, and he lives at home rent-free. He doesn't contribute financially and spends most of his paycheck on gaming stuff or fast food. We don't charge rent or anything because we agreed he could stay home and save until he's ready to move out or go to college/trade school. So far, that hasn't happened. This wouldn't be such a sore spot if it weren't for the fact that Brandon has increasingly checked out of family life over the past year. He spends nearly all day in his room, gaming or on Discord with friends. He eats meals with us sometimes but doesn't help with chores, doesn't check in, and more recently, has refused to help with Ava, even in small ways like holding her, while I get bottles ready or entertaining her when I'm rushing to get dinner done. We've had multiple conversations about this. I've asked him calmly, at first, to step up and be more involved. I even told him it's not about babysitting his siblings, but about being part of a household where everyone contributes, especially since we're making sacrifices to support him. He always nods, mutters something like, "Yeah, okay," and then nothing changes. Now on to the vacation. We planned a family trip to Hawaii about 8 months ago. It was supposed to be all of us, but 2 days before the flight, David had a major work emergency and couldn't come. He was gutted, and so was I. But he told me to take the kids and try to enjoy ourselves. The plan had been for David and me to split responsibilities, especially with Ava and the twins. Chloe and Leela are very attached to their dad, and they were devastated he wasn't coming. They cried a lot the first few days. Tyler and I did our best to comfort them, but Brandon was just checked out. Completely. From day one, he did nothing. Every time we tried to go somewhere beach, banana boat rides, luau's, Brandon would claim he was tired, didn't feel like it, or just flat out say, "Nah, I'm good." He'd stay back in the Airbnb, either sleeping or glued to his phone. At first I gave him space. He's older now, and I get that not every 19-year-old wants to hang out with their little siblings 24/7. But this wasn't that. This was him completely disengaging from the family trip entirely. Meanwhile, I was juggling a teething baby, 2 10-year-olds who wanted pool time and attention, and a teenager Tyler who, bless him, was trying to be helpful, but also clearly wanted some freedom of his own. I tried to keep everyone happy, but it felt like I was getting stretched in every direction while Brandon lounged in air conditioning, occasionally showing up to eat. I asked Brandon multiple times to help out. I didn't even ask for much, just to take Chloe and Leela to the pool for 30 minutes, so I could put Ava down for a nap or prep dinner. Every time, he refused. Sometimes with a flat no, other times with an eye roll and, "I'm on vacation too." That's when the resentment started boiling over. This wasn't just a vacation for me, it had turned into a logistical nightmare. And here's my 19-year-old son, fully capable, just freeloading, and watching his pregnant mother struggle. There's history here, too. 2 months ago, we had a similar issue at a family barbecue where Brandon disappeared halfway through and left Tyler dealing with the younger girls. Another time, David asked him to help mow the lawn, and he said it was bad for his allergies, but then walked to the gas station for snacks an hour later. So I snapped. It was about a week into the trip. I was beyond exhausted. Tyler was trying to wrangle the twins, Ava was screaming, and Brandon was again nowhere to be found, just holed up in the room, gaming with his headset on. I had just finished wiping down Ava after a diaper blowout, and Leela was crying because she wanted to go to the pool, and Chloe had spilt juice all over the Airbnb couch. I called for Brandon loudly. He came downstairs with his headphones still half on, and this annoyed look on his face, like I just interrupted the most important moment of his life. That look was the final straw. I shouted, "If you can't step up and help the woman who gave birth to you and lets you live in her house rent-free while giving you a job, whose money you just spend on silly games instead of getting an apartment, then you can get out of my house and pay for your own stuff." He stood there, completely stunned. said nothing. Just turned around and went back to the room. Less than an hour later, I started getting calls. First from my sister-in-law, then from David's parents. Apparently Brandon had texted them saying I'd kicked him out on vacation and screamed at him over nothing. His version of events conveniently left out the part where he contributed zero to this family trip and has been skating by at home for months. His aunt actually asked me, "Why would you scream at him when he didn't even do anything?" Exactly. He didn't do anything. I told her. Yeah, he's been doing nothing except eating and chatting in his room with his silly friends, instead of helping his mother and siblings. Then I hung up. I was done. When we got home from the trip, David was furious. As soon as we walked through the door, and I told him how the rest of the trip played out, he called Brandon downstairs and laid into him. Not screaming, but firm. Told him flat out he was disappointed in how selfish and immature he acted. Reminded him that this wasn't the first time we'd asked for help, and that being part of a family isn't optional when you live under someone's roof rent-free. Brandon argued at first. He said he didn't think it was fair that he was expected to be a third parent just because he was older. David shot that down quick. Said we weren't asking him to raise the kids. We were asking him to be a functioning member of the family for one damn week. Brandon had no response to that. He went back up to his room, sulking. He's barely said a word to me since. David and I had a long conversation that night. We agreed something has to change. Brandon's been treating our house like a free hostel. No rent, no responsibilities, and no regard for anyone else's needs. I'm not even asking him to babysit. I'm asking him to show basic respect for the people who support him. Instead, he acted like a guest on vacation, not a family member. We also talked about how tired Tyler looked the whole trip. He didn't complain once, but I could tell it wore him down. He deserved to enjoy the beach and relax too, but he kept stepping in whenever Brandon refused. Chloe and Leela noticed too. Leela asked me, "Why doesn't Brandon like spending time with us anymore?" That hit hard. It's not just about help. It's about the fact that his sisters look up to him, and all they're seeing is someone who ignores them unless forced to acknowledge they exist. And then there's Ava. At just 1 year old, she needs constant care. I didn't expect Brandon to feed or change her, but offering to hold her while I made a bottle would have made a difference. He didn't lift a finger. After all this, the in-laws are still on Brandon's side. His aunt posted some passive-aggressive quote on Facebook about parents forgetting their kids are adults. His grandmother called me and said maybe I'm being too hard on him since he didn't sign up to be a parent. Again, I didn't ask him to parent. I asked him to help. If Tyler, a high school senior with college applications and exams, can step up without being asked, why can't a 19-year-old man who has no obligations outside of a part-time job and gaming? I've seen this kind of enabling before. David's side of the family has always coddled Brandon. When he was younger, every time he got in trouble, whether it was a bad grade or talking back, his grandparents made excuses for him. He's just sensitive, or he's not like other boys. But the truth is, he was like other boys. He just learned early on that if he acted helpless long enough, someone else would do the hard stuff for him. Well, that's over. David and I agreed that Brandon needs a planned school, job training, or work. But he's not going to just float in this house with no accountability. We're giving him until the end of the year to start contributing meaningfully, or he needs to move out. That means helping around the house, helping with his siblings when asked, and showing some level of investment in becoming an adult. Otherwise, he'll have to support himself. He didn't take that news well. Said we're punishing him for not being a babysitter. I told him it's not punishment, it's expectations. He's not a guest anymore. He's an adult who needs to act like one. Now, most of my side of the family agrees with me. They saw how stressed I was even before the trip. My sister told me I looked like I hadn't slept in weeks. My cousin, who has 4 kids, said if her teenager acted like Brandon, she would have lost it way sooner. Still, the pushback from David's family is loud and constant. His mom keeps calling to ask if we've made up with Brandon. His aunt said it's traumatizing to be yelled at by your mother on vacation, and that Brandon might not trust me again. Meanwhile, Brandon hasn't apologized or even acknowledged how his behavior affected the rest of us. So now I'm wondering if I really did go too far. I yelled at him in front of his siblings. I told him to get out if he wouldn't contribute, which maybe sounded harsher than I intended. But it's how I felt in the moment, 5 months pregnant, sunburnt, exhausted, with a crying baby on my hip and 2 10-year-olds begging me to take them to the pool. Maybe I could have handled it better. Maybe I should have pulled him aside instead of calling him out in front of the family. But part of me thinks if I had done it quietly, it wouldn't have sunk in at all. He needed to hear it. And honestly, I think part of the reason his relatives are so defensive is because they know deep down he's been coasting, and they enabled it. I want to raise responsible, empathetic kids, not adults who think family means free rent and zero accountability. But maybe I lost my cool too much. Or maybe I'm just too fed up to see it clearly. So, Reddit. Ada. Comments. Comment 1. YTA. You chose to have 5 kids and 1 on the way. That's not on Brandon. That's not on Tyler. That's not on the twins. That's not on baby Ava. That's on you and David. I'm a parent myself. And even I'm like, why would you expect a 19-year-old to step in as your backup adult? He's not your husband. He's not the father of these kids. He's not even out of his teen years. And honestly, this trip sounds like hell because you were trying to use him as an unpaid third parent. That's not his role. You keep talking about him living rent-free like it's some massive favor. But the second you start using rent-free as leverage to push him into parental duties, you've crossed into exploitation. If you want him to pay rent or do chores, fine. But supervising a 10-year-old pair of kids every time you're overwhelmed, that's parenting duties. And the way you framed the whole story conveniently leaves out how much you expect him to cover when you and David can't. If he's constantly being told to help, when really what you mean is, handle the kids because I'm drowning, that's a problem with your choices, not his responsibilities. Stop having kids you can't manage without drafting older ones into the childcare army. Comment 2. Predictably Tyler. Holy SHT, YTA. And you're doing Olympic-level gymnastics trying to hide it. I'm only commenting because I've been staying at my nana's for the past few weeks after that vacation, which wasn't a vacation, it was a meltdown with palm trees. And not because of Brandon. Because of you. Aren't you the same parent who lectures the twins about how lies always catch up to you? Yeah, well, here we are. You say Brandon never helps? He helps every single day. You just didn't include those details because it would blow up the whole narrative you're pushing. You make it sound like you only occasionally need help. No, you drop childcare on Brandon and Tyler constantly. Going out with my friends. Suddenly I'm a stand-in mom to Chloe and Leela. Brandon has plans. Nope. The girls need someone to watch them. You and David want a date night? Guess who gets stuck with Ava? Or the twins? Or both? I love my siblings. So does Brandon. But the reason they run to us instead of you is because you don't give them the attention they keep begging for. We're not built in entertainment. We're not their emotional support animals. We're kids too. Also, it's wild how you forgot to mention that the only reason Brandon still lives with you is because he is autistic. You left that out like it was irrelevant. That's insane. You framed him as lazy when you know he gets overwhelmed easily and shuts down in chaotic environments like this trip was from the minute we landed. And David didn't have a work emergency. He had an emergency involving Grace. You know that. You just didn't want to put that truth in the post because it would make you look bad for dragging all of us to Hawaii alone while pregnant. Oh, and as soon as I'm turning 18, I'll be moving to Nana's right after. I'm done being a third parent in your house. Good luck raising 6 kids without the 2 teens you've been leaning on like scaffolding. Comment 3. Brandon is the walking definition of an entitled adult baby. NTA. You didn't ask him to raise your other kids. You asked him not to act like a effing piece of furniture with Wi-Fi. I seriously can't with he didn't sign up for parenting crowd. Like, what? No one's asking him to fill out a W-2 as a father figure. You wanted him to watch his sisters for a damn hour. Meanwhile, Tyler's out here doing all the heavy lifting and still probably getting told, you're the easy kid. Honestly, your in-laws sound like they want Brandon to stay a helpless little boy forever because it makes them feel needed. That post your still made? Cringe. Imagine being that publicly wrong and smug at the same time. You did what a lot of parents are too scared to do, held your grown kid accountable. That's parenting. Not yelling. Sure, maybe. But boundaries with consequences. Hell yes, Brandon needed to hear it. He still does. Hold that line. You're doing what's best for everyone, even him. Update. It's been a while. A long while. I originally posted during a trip to Hawaii when I was 5 months pregnant. Brandon, our oldest now 22, refused to help with his younger siblings, and I snapped. That post blew up more than I expected, and the comments were frankly disgusting. People making judgments off one story without any context or clue about the reality we live in. Well, here's your update. I had our 6th child, another girl. Her name is Natalie, and she's now 2. She's a handful, definitely more attached to me than Ava ever was. Ava's 4 now and still doesn't sleep through the night. David and I are both working. I picked up part-time again because things have been tight. We sold our old minivan and downsized. I do most of the driving, grocery runs, appointments, and school pickups, all with Natalie in the back, and usually one or both of the twins in tow. Now on to what everyone really wants to know, Brandon. Shortly after we got back from that Hawaii trip, we had a sit-down family dinner and gave Brandon an ultimatum. Either step up, help with the kids, and contribute to the household as part of the family, or move out. He tried to brush it off like usual, but David had had enough. He told Brandon flat out, if he wasn't going to carry his weight, we'd calculate what his stay had cost us and back bill him. That's exactly what we did. We pulled every utility bill, rent estimate, and grocery receipt and wrote up a bill. $4,200. We gave him 6 months to start paying it down, or he'd be out. That triggered another argument. He said we were extorting him, and that we were using helping with siblings as a weapon. I told him again, this is what being part of a family means. You don't get to take and then disappear whenever there's actual work. When he still refused to help, and we're talking basic stuff like watching Ava for half an hour, while I got Natalie to sleep, we brought it up again. He snapped back that he didn't sign up to raise kids, and was tired of being a third parent. That's when I lost it, and told him he was using his autism diagnosis as an excuse for laziness. Maybe harsh, but it needed to be said. I've seen plenty of people on the spectrum function just fine. Brandon knows how to sit on his computer for hours. He can manage 15 minutes with his sisters. Not long after, he left. Packed a bag, moved in with his old friend Alex, and never came back. It's been over 2 years. No contact, no birthday cards, no visits. Even on Ava's birthday, when Chloe made her a card from Brandon, hoping he'd see it if we posted it. Nothing. The few times we reached out, he ghosted us. I heard from someone he moved states, but that's it. What stings more is what he left behind. The twins were devastated. They thought he didn't love them anymore. So yes, I told them part of the truth, that Brandon didn't want to help and chose to leave. Maybe I shouldn't have said it like that, but I'm not going to sugarcoat reality for them. They need to understand that actions have consequences, even from people you love. As for Tyler, well, he stepped up. He's 20 now. For the last 2 years, he's been my right hand. Picks up the twins from school, handles Ava when I'm putting Natalie down, and even makes dinner twice a week. It hasn't been perfect, he's had his share of complaints, but at least he understands how families work. He even pushed back once and asked if we were counting on him to be Brandon 2.0. I told him we weren't, but I won't lie. His help has made this family function. But now Tyler's talking about moving out too. He wants to go to a university 3 hours away instead of doing community college like we agreed. He says he needs space and wants his own life. Which, fine, I get it. But we made it clear that we would only support college financially if he stayed close. Tuition, car maintenance, even helping him with books, all contingent on that. We can't afford to bankroll another kid flying the coop and leaving the rest of us behind. I told him I understood his desire for independence, but we need realism right now. We're a family of 7. It's not about trapping him. It's about holding this household together without everything falling on me and David. And if he follows Brandon's footsteps, it's going to leave a massive hole. I should mention that since Natalie's birth, things haven't slowed down. The girls are in more activities now, which means driving everywhere. Ava's been evaluated for speech delay, and I'm the one managing all those appointments. We don't have a nanny. We don't have grandparents helping. It's just us. And the Reddit response? Don't think I forgot. All the people calling me a parentification abuser, a baby factory, or saying Brandon was traumatized by me asking him to help on vacation get real. That was a vacation in name only. David couldn't come. I had 5 kids with me, and Brandon chose to act like a guest in a hotel instead of helping the family that raised him. Reddit loves to paint every adult child as a victim if their mom asks for any contribution. We didn't yell at him because we wanted him to parent. We yelled because we've given him everything: a home, a job, support through high school, patience with his social struggles, and all we asked was a few hours here and there to be part of this family. He refused. And don't think we're the only ones dealing with this. Half the parents I know are drowning, while their older kids just opt out. We gave him the chance to stay, to grow, to be supported. He walked out. Now Tyler's halfway out the door too. At this point, I'm tired of the assumptions, the internet lectures, and the complete lack of understanding of what large families actually take to run. The people who tell me to stop having kids if I can't handle them don't live our life. They don't know the daily grind. We do what we can with who we have. I still love Brandon. He's my son. But we're done chasing someone who doesn't want to be chased. Let's see if Tyler follows through. I hope he doesn't. I hope he stays close, does community college like we planned, and keeps being part of the team. But if he goes, well, we'll figure it out. We always do. Comments. Comment 1. Oh cool, just circling back to this emotional hostage situation, with a side of spreadsheet parenting. You billed your son $4,200 for rent, because he wouldn't babysit while you were growing your 6th dependent. That's, well, I'd call it bold, but that'd imply strategy. This is more like chaos cosplay. Also loved the part where you told your 10-year-olds their big brother left, because he didn't want to help. An excellent way to plant abandonment trauma and weaponize sibling loyalty in one tidy sentence. And now Tyler's your newest unpaid intern with the special perk of maybe going to community college if he behaves. Hope he negotiates a better benefits package than Brandon got. You're not running a household. You're running a timeshare with unpaid staff and broken Wi-Fi. Comment 2. This reads less like an update and more like a case study in multi-generational dysfunction under the guise of family values. What you're describing isn't parenting. It's the slow institutional collapse of a support system that was never scaled for 6 children. You use family interchangeably with labor structure. Brandon was the first draft. Tyler's the update. You want compliance with loyalty, and when it's withheld, you interpret that as moral failure. You presented Brandon with a rent invoice because he opted out of unpaid childcare. You told Tyler college is conditional on physical proximity. These aren't consequences, they're control mechanisms. You claim love and sacrifice, but your language is transactional. Love isn't given, it's leveraged. Sacrifice isn't shared, it's demanded. Brandon didn't abandon your family. He exited a system that used his neurodivergence as an override switch. Tyler will too, not out of cruelty, but out of survival. Update. It's been a while since my original post, and a lot has happened. So here's everything that's gone down, and trust me, it's a lot. First, Brandon. He's 24 now. I found out through a distant cousin that he moved across the country, got a full-time job at a small tech company, and apparently he's doing well. He even has a girlfriend he's been with for over a year. I only learned any of this because I ran into my cousin at a grocery store, and she casually said, "You must be proud of him." Proud of what? Running away from his responsibilities? Abandoning his family? Leaving behind the siblings who adored him? Everyone wants to pretend he's thriving. But from where I stand, he cut us off. No calls, no updates, not even a birthday text to his sisters. Then there's Tyler. He's 22 now, and he did the same thing. Packed up, moved out for college, and blocked my number for months. He's only recently unblocked me, but refuses to come home, because it's not a safe environment. Safe from what? Supporting your mother? Helping your family? I tried talking to him calmly, but he said every time he visits, it sets him back emotionally. That's dramatic to say the least, but I've given up trying to convince him. He won't help. He won't visit unless it's for the girls, and even then he stays in a hotel or with Nana. He could have come home, stepped back into the role he had, and helped stabilize this house, especially with everything that went down, but he chose to stay away. Now onto the new mess. David cheated on me. Yes, the man who used to defend me, who insisted the boys should help, who claimed we were a team. He was with some woman from work for almost a year. I confronted him after I found suspicious charges and late-night texts. He didn't deny it. He actually said, "I needed support, and you were too overwhelmed to notice anything." As if I'm supposed to babysit the kids, keep the house afloat, and monitor his fidelity like it's another chore on my list. We separated shortly after. He moved in with her. He barely sees the girls, and when he does, he drops them off early or cancels last minute. Meanwhile, he spends money on vacations with her, but drags his feet on child support. I've had to get lawyers involved because he was underpaying and claiming he doesn't make enough, now that he's renting an apartment and starting his life over. Since the separation, everything at home has been harder. I don't sugarcoat that. The twins, now 14, have been acting out in school. Fighting, skipping homework, emotional breakdowns. At first I thought it was just teenage stuff, but the school counselor said they're struggling with instability at home. Ava, who's 6 now, has had tantrums almost daily and refuses to sleep alone. And Natalie, she's 4, still isn't talking clearly. And we've had to get her into speech therapy. Child Protective Services got involved last year after the school reported concerns about overwhelm in the household, which felt like a slap in the face. They visited and asked a million questions, and we had to do a safety plan and regular check-ins. They didn't find abuse because there isn't any, but they said I needed more support structures. Hard to do when the adults who were supposed to help walked away. With everything falling apart, I learned the truth behind something I never thought would happen at my age. I had a pregnancy scare. At 49, I was late, exhausted, nauseous, and terrified. The test came back negative, but it shook me. I physically can't handle another child. I'm drained already between the school issues, therapy appointments, driving everywhere, working part-time, the financial strain, the lawyers, CPS, the girls' emotional breakdowns, and dealing with the fallout of Brandon and Tyler's disappearance. I'm stretched thinner than ever. If Brandon and Tyler had stayed, things wouldn't have spiraled like this. If they had stayed involved, maybe I would have noticed David cheating sooner. Maybe the girls wouldn't feel abandoned. Maybe Natalie wouldn't be behind on her milestones, because I could have given her more one-on-one time. Maybe Ava wouldn't be melting down constantly. Maybe CPS never would have been called if teachers saw that the older boys were helping with stability. This isn't blaming them for everything. This is acknowledging that when 2 key pieces of a family walk out, the whole structure collapses. I know Reddit loves to scream parentification, but that's not what this was. Helping is not parenting. Supporting your family is not abuse. I wasn't asking them to raise their siblings alone. I needed teamwork. Especially when I'm managing 6 kids and a crumbling marriage. But instead of stepping up, they stepped out. Now I'm stuck juggling everything alone. David is off living his best life with his side piece. Brandon has erased us like we never existed. Tyler says coming home reopens old wounds. The twins are angry at everyone. Ava is confused. Natalie needs far more attention than I can give right now. I don't want David back. I want child support and accountability. And I don't want to force the boys back into this house, but I do want them back in this family. I want them to show up, to help repair what fell apart, to be there for their sisters, to pick up the roles they walked away from. They were part of this family before they chose to abandon it, and honestly, I still believe it's time they step up again. They left. Life fell apart. Now they're adults. They can come back and help fix the damage. I don't think that's unreasonable. Comments. Comment 1. I'm a single dad of 3, and I'll say this as plainly as I can. YTA. Not because your life isn't hard, it clearly is. But because you've built a family dynamic where every time someone doesn't drown with you, you call it abandonment. You act like Brandon and Tyler were lifeboats. They weren't. They were kids. And instead of shielding them from the storm, you strapped them to the mast. Now you're standing in the wreckage saying, if they'd stayed, we wouldn't have sunk. That's not fair. That's not parenting. That's survival mode gone toxic. Yes, David cheating on you is awful. Yes, raising 6 kids alone is brutal. But blaming your sons for not being there to catch your husband cheating, that's delusional and manipulative. You're still rewriting the story to make yourself the victim, but the real damage was never them walking away. It was the fact that they had to. Comment 2. Jesus effing Christ. I had to take a walk after reading this. Your update is a textbook example of emotional blackmail masquerading as a cry for help. Brandon and Tyler didn't abandon your family, they escaped a black hole of guilt, labor, and obligation that you dressed up as teamwork. You parentified them. Full stop. And now you're shocked that when they had a chance to breathe, they ran and never came back. You had 6 kids you couldn't handle. You turned your sons into unpaid staff, then billed one for existing. Guilt tripped the other into canceling birthday plans. And now you're out here connecting their departure to CPS visits and your husband's cheating. That's not just unfair, that's narcissistic logic. Let them go. They gave more than they ever should have had to. Your daughters don't need their brothers to come save them. They need a mother who stops seeing everyone else as a resource to be mined. Comment 3. There's a line in your post that stuck with me. Helping is not parenting. Supporting your family is not abuse. But context is everything. If helping means consistent childcare, emotional support, household responsibilities, and filling in for 2 emotionally unavailable parents, that's not helping. That's functioning as a surrogate adult. You can call it support, but the weight of that responsibility doesn't change just because you softened the language. It's telling that even now, with years of distance and catastrophic fallout, your takeaway is still that Brandon and Tyler owe you something. Not because they hurt you, but because they refuse to keep carrying you. You are in pain. I don't doubt that. But your sons aren't the reason your life unraveled. The structure was flawed from the start. Too many kids, too little planning, and no accountability until it was too late. They didn't cause the collapse. They just didn't stay to get crushed by it. Second story. I paid for my nephew's activity to secure his college. Now my aunt demands I pay for all her girls' hobbies and activities because I'm wealthy, and then said I should pay for all my cousins' children. I have 30 cousins. Due to hard work, but also a lot of luck, my husband and I are fairly well off, while many of my family members are struggling financially. They're not going hungry, just having to cut corners. I am an only child, but have a very large extended family, and I grew up close to many of my cousins. One cousin's son has been swimming since he was 4, and swimming is basically his life. He is 15 and swims for his high school, but has also been swimming with a club for many years. His parents have scrimped to make this possible. There is a lot of travel involved, and now apparently even his suits, technical suits, I think they're called, are hundreds of dollars, and he needs these for the championship meets. Basically, it's expensive, and they can no longer afford it. His coach is eager to waive the club fees to keep him in swimming, but he can't cover all the related costs. I've offered to pay for all of Deaton's swim expenses. He is good, and he is dedicated. He practices around 16 hours a week, getting up at 5 a.m. many mornings. He has an excellent chance of getting a scholarship to a D1 school. He is already getting attention from coaches. The problem is, he has 3 siblings who also participate in activities, and my cousin is stopping those due to financial concerns as well. And I have several other cousins with whom I'm even closer who are in similar positions. Deaton's parents have graciously accepted my offer, but my aunt said that if I'm going to pay for Deaton to keep his sport, I need to pay for his sisters to keep dance, cheerleading, and art as well. Another cousin also says that I shouldn't pay for one of my cousin's child's activities without paying for hers too. I have about 30 first cousins. I can't pay for everyone. I could possibly be the aunts because I guess it isn't fair. And I know these other children enjoy their sports activities too, and it could look like favoritism. But I think I'm probably not the AA because so far the others aren't anywhere near as talented or as serious about their extracurriculars as Deaton is, and his will almost definitely land him a college scholarship. Ada. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. But why did anyone outside of Deaton's parents need to know that you were doing this? OP. Because my family has a collective big mouth. Deaton's sisters complained to their grandma, who then reached out to me, and apparently others as well. And I'm sure the whole family knows by now. I come from a very small town. Commenter 2. You are not paying out of favoritism. You are investing in his future. Tell anyone who complains that they are welcome to pay for X to do Y if they want. Your investment in your nephew is probably only going to be for 3 years. You can support another child with potential then. NTA. OP. This is the way I see it. This is going to help him succeed in the future. Not many of my cousins or their children have been able to attend college, and this is his chance. Commenter 3. NTA. It sounds like your aunt just volunteered to pay for everything for everyone else. OP. I wish. But she's in worse financial shape than my cousin. Commenter 4. It's quite reasonable to pay for a talented athlete's training, but not others. It's a shame what should have remained private didn't. But these things happen. OP. If I'd thought it over more before making the offer, I probably could have handled it better. It just didn't occur to me that others would be hurt. I'm not so much concerned about what the parents think, but I don't want the kids thinking I like Deaton more than the others. Commenter 5. YTA. You've chosen a golden child, and you're creating an incredibly unfair and unequal dynamic amongst the siblings. It might not seem like a big deal to you, but I can assure you those other kids will not forget how you've made them feel. Update. I had a talk with Deaton's parents over the weekend, and we worked things out. It turns out they could easily afford their daughter's activities without Deaton's expenses. It's just that he recently became qualified to swim in national meets, and the cost was going to become prohibitively expensive. In the past, they've been able to drive to all his meets, even if sometimes they had to pay for a hotel. But now it's going to get much more expensive, and they just can't afford it. And they thought it would be more fair to just cancel activities for all their children. So I'm going to cover all of the swimming expenses, and the girls can keep their dancing, cheerleading, and art. According to the parents, their oldest daughter is a bit nosy and looked through their budget ledger and put together how much was being spent on Deaton compared to her and her sisters. She told her sisters, and now they all feel that they should get more better clothes, phones, etc. and the youngest wants an expensive iPad for her art. Basically, they think their parents should be spending as much on each of them as they spend on their brother. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but regardless, things can be a lot more fair as to how their parents allocate their money for their children, now that Deaton's swimming isn't eating up a large chunk of it. To be honest, the girls sound just a bit greedy to me. But it may just be that their feelings are hurt that their brother was getting more. And they are just children after all. It turns out most of our large extended family that knows about this, and has any opinion at all, is in favor of Deaton continuing with swimming at all costs. And some even offered to pitch in what they could to make it happen. That isn't necessary. And these people don't have any more than Deaton's parents. So it's not up to them to make it up to Deaton's sisters that more is being spent on him. It's really just the grandmother and one of her daughters, the kid's aunt, who are the troublemakers. The grandma thinks all the kids should be treated the same by their parents. And if anyone other than their parents is going to help any one of them, they should all get equal treatment. The aunt has a daughter who has just gotten into pageants, and I think this is a lot of where this is coming from. They have just started to realize how expensive pageants are, and both the grandma and the aunt think that if I'm going to pay for Deaton's swimming, I should also pay for Kaylin's pageant expenses. I don't see the same value in buying $500 fancy dresses for a 4-year-old as I do in supporting a future college athlete. So I'm not going to do that, and they're angry with me. They have some family members tentatively on their side, I think by sheer coercion, but I can handle that. I come from a huge family, and not everyone is going to agree with everyone else all the time. In fact, there is never a time when we're all in agreement over anything, lol. But the important thing is that Deaton gets to keep swimming, and his sisters get to keep their activities as well. I imagine this will all blow over eventually. Comments. Commenter 1. The girls aren't being greedy. They are hurt. Their parents have been spending more time and money on their brother for years. They knew about the time, but seeing the money in stark detail can be upsetting. And just because he's good at 15 doesn't mean he's getting a D1 scholarship. A lot can happen in the intervening years: injuries, odd growth, loss of interest, etc. It is pretty SHTTY of you, their parents, and the family to rally around a single teenage boy, rather than making sure there's even a passing glance at equality. I'm sure Zism plays no part in this. Why aren't you calling a kid who wants to spend thousands on swimmers and travel, while monopolizing his parents' time greedy and selfish? OP. It does sort of sound like the main focus of the family is Deaton and his swimming. But that really isn't the case. The parents spend just as much time with and focus just as much attention on their daughters as they do their son. And they are just as supportive of their interests. It's just that Deaton's swimming costs more financially. I only think the girls come off as slightly greedy to me, because they're thinking that if X amount of money is being spent on swimming, then they want the same amount spent on them. I would understand if they thought it should be divided equally, but they think they should all get that. And they want things like clothes and makeup, which are not important to me. So maybe my own values are clouding my judgment. I do think they're just kids who want what they want. My own kids act kind of greedy sometimes, and I think it's pretty normal. Commenter 2. There's the favorite, important son, and the others. It's normal that they treat him that way because clearly everyone agrees that he's more important. What's illogical is thinking that the second-class children can't feel hurt by being treated as less and, on top of that, be the bad guys for having feelings in that situation. But anyway, it's not like our opinion matters because in the end, those girls don't matter enough. OP. It isn't like that, though. They aren't treated in the slightest like second-class children. If anything, two of the girls have much stronger personalities than Deaton and the other daughter. And these two tend to get most of the attention. Deaton and the other daughter are introverted and quiet and prefer to be out of the limelight. Commenter 3. You can spend whatever you want on your nephew. But calling those young girls greedy because they also want to pursue things that they like, but can't because the golden child is getting more attention and help is kind of rude. NTA for spending on your nephew. But why TA for diminishing your niece's feelings? OP. But they don't want to pursue things. They want clothes and makeup and upgraded cell phones. And he is not getting more attention at all and isn't the golden child. If anyone is the golden child, it's the second daughter, the one who takes art lessons, because she was sick a lot when she was young and tends to get more of the attention still. And the oldest, the cheerleader, is very outgoing and personable and also gets a lot of the attention. I do feel a little bad for the youngest. She seems to get less attention just because she is very quiet and doesn't seek it. Deaton is a lot like her personality-wise. Commenter 4. There is a difference between spending money on an activity that the kid is putting time and dedication into and getting money for makeup and clothes. Dance and cheerleading can get just as expensive if they're doing it competitively. If they weren't willing to spend as much traveling for cheerleading for one of the girls doing that competitively, that would be an issue of inequality. The parents were wrong for considering stopping the other kids' activities completely to prioritize swimming. But with OP taking the extra burden off, they can continue. And maybe one of the kids can put the type of effort into their activities that would make a large monetary investment needed. OP. Yeah, the dancer has one lesson a week, and the cheerleader cheers for her high school, not competitively. If either were competing competitively, it would be a whole different ballgame. If any of the others ever does get seriously involved in a sport activity to the point where they need more financial support, I'd be happy to help. OP on her niece's dancing lessons. OP. She's 9 years old and takes one dance lesson a week. She likes it fine, but it's not a passion. When she turns 10, she would need to move up to a class that meets twice a week, and she doesn't want to do that. She says she might try gymnastics instead. Commenter 5. I think there is one more thing the parents should do. They need to have a serious conversation with their son. They need to tell him where the money is coming from. Assure him that the money will be there when it's needed, and that if this results in a college scholarship, and if his education results in a well-paying career, when he is established, he should consider doing the same thing for one of his younger cousins. He needs to understand what's happening here and why. Because his sisters and possibly cousins are going to give him SHT. He needs to be able to defend himself, and to make decisions with a full understanding of the situation. OP. That's actually a wonderful idea. One poster mentioned the possibility that he might decide to quit swimming at some point, and we should be prepared for that. I absolutely do not want to put any pressure on him, but he has to stick with swimming, and he has to succeed because I'm helping financially. I only want him to be able to continue doing what makes him happy, and have the support he needs to go as far as he is able to and wants to go. So I like how you stress if and when. If he is ever in a good financial position, because he was able to get a scholarship to a good university, it would be the kind thing to do to help out a younger cousin. Or who knows, maybe even a niece or nephew. OP explains more about her cousin's children's commitments to their activities. OP. The girls don't have to make do with bottom-of-the-barrel equipment. I never said that. There's nothing their activities require that they don't get. And it's not poor quality. Deaton doesn't even get every single thing he needs or top-of-the-line equipment. His coach wanted him to get some timing thing you wear over your ear that ticks to help you keep on pace. I don't remember what they said it's called. And it was $50. And his parents didn't buy it. He gets the cheapest fins and snorkels and other equipment. All his teammates have swim parkas with their last name and the team logo on them. And he doesn't because they're very expensive. They do buy him good suits because he needs them to be competitive. They put Deaton in swim lessons at 4 because they were at the pool once when the swim team was practicing when he was 2. And he just about lost his mind with excitement watching them. He kept on talking about it and never forgot. And when they taught him to swim when he was 3, he really took to it. So when he was 4, and they thought he could handle instruction, they enrolled him in swimming, and the rest is history. The girls had every bit as much opportunity as Deaton. They just never took an interest in anything until they were older. And even then, it's not a very strong interest. Their mom enrolled his older sister in dance when they signed Deaton up for swim. And she did that for a year and didn't want to anymore. She also took karate for 2 years and took gymnastics lessons for a while. And there may be more I'm forgetting. The others are more or less the same. They've tried things, and some have lasted longer than others. But they've never become invested in any of them. It's not due to lack of parental support or encouragement. They just lost interest. Most kids don't start a sport at 4 and participate all through elementary, middle, and high school, and then get scholarships to play in college. The girls are the norm, not the exception. Commenter 6. I don't believe at all that the older daughter sneaked into ledgers. The parents either spoke about this in earshot, or this is a lie to cover up their prior rude request. You are taking the financial problem of swimming off the table, so now they get more of their parents' financial focus. Let the grandmother pay for all the grandchildren if she wants them all to get extra. OP. She had pictures on her phone that she shared with her grandmother. I don't think my cousin would have been as upset about it if she hadn't shared their personal finances with his mother. The grandmother is a very kind and caring lady, but she is also a bit of a busybody, and she's bad about using her grandchildren for info about what their parents are up to. Commenter 7. The child had pics that she shared with her grandmother. Yikes. She must have heard something and had a reason to snoop, because that's crazy. OP. Yeah. When their parents sat the kids down and told them that they couldn't afford the lessons anymore. The 16-year-old looked in their budget ledger book. When she saw how much was being spent on swimming, she told the 13-year-old, and then they both told Grandma. Grandma wanted details, so Isla took photos of the ledger and sent them. The funny thing is that Isla's only activities are cheerleading and a couple of school clubs, which she was going to get to keep since they're mostly school-funded. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.